Good evening. We'll begin with sitting meditation, please. Finding our posture, a place where we can be grounded, relaxed, and alert. And taking a few moments to feel our body in this seat, the weight of our body sinking down, the points of contact. I like to call it a dignified posture, a place where we can kind of survey what's happening. We can have our eyes closed or gently gazing down forward. And bring our attention to the sensation of breathing. Where do we feel the in-breath? And the out-breath? Just paying attention to what it feels like to breathe in and out. And dwelling a bit on the pause between the breaths. Often the pause is the place where we get distracted and start thinking about other things. And we notice that, oh. Notice it with curiosity and kindness. Bring our attention back to the next breath. Place of peace. Again and again, we can let go of what's coming up in our minds, all the busyness of our lives, and it will keep coming up. That's okay. Notice it and let it go. Just sitting and breathing. Here we are in week 6. I've really treasured this group. Tonight we'll take some time to talk about mindful speaking and listening, and then we'll talk about where do we go from here. So in week 1, we're exploring mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Paying attention, learning to pay attention, a skill that we can develop in the practice of meditation, and we can build on it in our daily lives. And the core practice, sitting, noticing the breath, and noticing when our attention goes to thoughts, emotions, sensations, and noticing that. And with curiosity, there's something. And I like to think this needed to come up. You know, all this stuff we need to process it somehow. And I think meditation kind of helps us to process it. So, and then saying, but right now, I'm going to bring it back to the breath. So with kindness, we say, yeah. And we build that skill of letting go. Accepting what is, and building the skill. And it is a concentration practice, so it does take some effort. I really liked what Sharon in the last pages of our book, Real Happiness, Sharon Salzberg's book, which is, I think, wonderful introduction and review of what this practice is. She uses the word gentle several times. And it really is gentle. You know, sometimes concentration and effort are hard. And in this practice, I have a tendency sometimes to really try too hard, and no, gentle, noticing, coming back to the peace of just sitting and breathing. So in weeks 2 and 3, we reviewed some body awareness practices, and we learned that we can build mindfulness by concentrating on many different things. So we did some yoga movement where we focus our attention on feelings in the body, positions, movement, what that feels like. We did a body scan where we are in one position and sequentially notice what different areas of the body feel like. We did some walking meditation where we concentrate on what it feels like to take a step. And we did some eating meditation. And all of these are kind of rehearsals for how we can use mindfulness in daily life for any activity. Washing the dishes. What was the one we were focusing on the other day at home?
Cleaning the stove.
We've been doing, that's Jim's favorite.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
We've been doing a lot of cleaning at my house, so it's been a lot of cleaning of different kinds. And then in week 4, we kind of looked more intensely at these things that enter our mind, thoughts, emotions, and exploring those a little bit, noticing what they are, and sometimes going into them a little deeper, more deeply. So the first 4 weeks, as I mentioned, I think are kind of focused inward. They're learning to pay attention to what's here. 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 But in weeks 5 and 6, we're kind of directing our attention outward. So last week we were working on loving kindness meditation, where it is a mindfulness practice. It's training ourselves to be alert to what's going on with other people and directing kindness toward them. And this week, I'd like to explore another way in which we direct mindfulness, paying attention outward, and that is with mindful speaking and mindful listening. A lot of this I got from this book, Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach, which is in your reading list. And so I have a handout that we're going to look at right now. It's called Communicating with Awareness.
Thank you.
Okay. You have it?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to look at this for a minute, and we'll have time later to discuss our practices and whatever else is going on, but let's look at this for a minute. Then I've got a little exercise about practicing this. So, the first one, set your intention. Establish your intention to be present, honest, and kind in relating to others in any circumstance. This includes resolving not to say anything untrue or hurtful to anyone. So I think this is really helpful to set an intention. So we're going into a meeting or a conversation. It's really helpful before we get there to say, oh, I'm going to try to be mindful here. And because we have these habits, don't we? With certain people, we act a certain way, we do certain things. We can draw back from those habits a minute and really explore what it's like to be with another person. And I think the part about resolving not to say anything untrue or hurtful is really important. They talk about the 3 attributes of wise speech. One is be truthful. So that might, this gossip comes into this a lot, okay? Now, gossip is not always harmful, but it can be. But the main thing is, it's wise to set an intention only to say things that we know to be true. Sometimes we get into trouble if we say, oh, I heard that, It should be true, and it should be kind. So if we are with somebody and we know something is true, and we just got to tell them this thing, but if we are mindful, we can stop for a moment, pause, and say, does this really help this person, or are we causing harm? So it's mindfulness. We're stepping back, noticing. And the third one is it timely? So very often we know something to be true and helpful, but maybe this isn't the right time to say this. And we can say, well, I can hold that. I don't have to say everything right now. Number 2, let your body be an anchor. So I think this is helpful when we're going into a conversation and just taking a moment to just feel our body and maybe come back to the breath. take a couple deep breaths. And maybe if it's a tough situation, maybe notice tension in our body. Oh yeah, I'm tight right now. Okay, that's a sign. Relax, let it go, take a breath. And then the next two are about listening from the heart and speaking from the heart. So when we're listening, it's good to let go of an agenda. So we usually come into a conversation wanting to get something done. And that's fruitful. I'm not saying we shouldn't have agendas, but let's be aware of it, okay? Maybe we can let go of the agenda and let things develop. And this, especially in this part, we kind of become aware of our thoughts while we're trying to listen to someone. So we have a lot of different habits that we tend to do when we're listening to someone. Very often we're judging what they say. And just notice that. Oh, I don't think they're right. I don't like that. Okay, just notice it. Okay? Or very often, if they're talking about some problem in their life, we're trying to think of ideas how they can fix it. Fine, but just be aware of that. Maybe it's not time to tell them how to fix it. Maybe they need to figure it out themselves. This is really common, I know with me, we're thinking about what we're gonna say when it's our turn, how we're gonna respond to them. And I'm not saying don't do it, we do it, but be aware of it. Oh, I'm thinking about what I'm gonna say. No, I'm just gonna listen right now. Listen with my heart so I can, take it in. And one thing we'll often notice, we'll compare what they're saying to our own experience. We'll say, oh yeah, I had that happen. Or, oh, I wanna do that too. Past, future. So it's mindfulness. It's not saying, don't do these things. I'm saying, be aware of them. And then you can pause and respond wisely. Of course, we have to know when to do this. Some degree of it is helpful always, but if there's a big party, you're never going to get a word in edgewise if you're pausing too much. So you have to use some judgment. The next one is about speaking from the heart. So once again, try not to rehearse what you're going to say. Rather, in the present moment, speak what feels true and meaningful. Let what you say arise from your immediate stream of experience. And I think the next one, pause, relax, and attend, is helpful. So it's really helpful to pause. When you're speaking, stop every once in a while, gather your thoughts, allow time for the other person to absorb what you said, breathe, and when you're listening, be aware of your breath, listen, pause, but it's especially helpful when you're speaking to pause, take your time. And the last one, practice radical acceptance. That means this is a lot to try to do. All these things, we're not going to do it. So be forgiving and just say, well, I'm going to keep trying. And over time, as I develop my meditation practice and work on mindful speaking and listening, I hope to get better. I think another part of it is accepting that even when we do all these things, it may not turn out that well. Our message may not be accepted. It may be interpreted in an entirely different way than we intended. And, you know, we just have to say, well, you know, that's how things go, accept what happens and move on. Acceptance is such a big part of it. That's the title of her book, Radical Acceptance. I would highly recommend that. I know some of you have worked with Tara Brach. She has some wonderful, not only books, but guided meditations, talks. So I have this little activity that in which we're going to try to practice this right here, okay? So sometimes this works pretty well, sometimes it's kind of wonky, but I think you can all do it very well. So I'm going to ask you to go with this, okay? So I'm going to seat you in a certain way, all right? So, Gail, I'd like you to turn your chair around facing that way. And I'm going to move you right back here next to Jim, and he's going to be your partner for this exercise, okay? And Meg, I'd like you to come here next to Kate, please. All right.
That means.
And Zach, you get Kim. If anyone objects to this pairing, let me know now.
Or yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
And I'm glad I don't have to do it, I can guide you. So in this exercise, I'm going to give you a little task of a story to tell. And what you say in the story is not important, but I want to practice mindful speaking and mindful listening. So one of you will be given the task of being the speaker, and the other one the listener, and then we'll change roles. So when you're speaking, try to pause, take your time, speak from the heart. When you're listening, notice when you're judging, when you're comparing, when you're criticizing, when you're trying to plan what you're going to say when it's your turn. Notice that. So, and then come back to listening. And every now and then, whether you're speaking or listening, maybe pause and take a breath. Okay? See how this works. So I put you this way to kind of eliminate the body language. I'm not saying you can't look at each other, but we're going to try to focus on what is being said. Any questions about that? Okay, so here's your assignment. Jim, Kate, and Kim, I'll let you be the speakers first, okay? Is that all right? So, and the others are listeners, and I'd like you to tell in like 3 to 5 minutes a little story about, and we can always think of this. I like this because we all have stories about this. Someone in your family or in your acquaintances who is difficult. And so speak softly so your partner can hear, but not too much out into the room. So I'll ring the bell. You can start. So speakers, think about who you're going to talk about. It doesn't have to be true. This is an exercise, okay? It's just working on mindful speaking and mindful listening. learning to pause, listen, all those skills we talked about, okay? Begin.
Well, this
I
person
know
is
a
my
person
brother-in-law.
who is always wanting to talk over the top of the rest of us when we're gathered together.
He is
And
married
if we
to a
try to
collector.
talk
For some
louder,
reason,
then
over the
they'll
years,
talk
he
even
has
louder than
really
us, and it's
irritated
very
me.
hard to
And it's
carry on
not
a
anything
conversation
specific.
because
He's not
they're
been
always
bad
trying
to
to
me
be
or
the
anything
dominant
like that.
one
It's just
in the room.
mannerisms.
And you can
He's a
walk
little bit
away
bossy
and try to have a
a
conversation
little bit
in the side room, but
self-enamored. He
that
likes
person seems
himself. He
to
likes his own
always
ideas and other
come
people's
around
ideas
and
don't offer much.
want
He
to
also is a little
talk over the
anti-intellectual
conversation
in the
and
sense that he
be the
doesn't
one that's driving
think
the
like
whole
college is very
conversation.
worthwhile
And
or that kind of
It seems
thing.
if you want to talk,
Is one
about
area
a
that
topic that you don't
grates
think
on me.
this person will know a lot about, then they get
In the course
angry and
of
upset.
my life's
And they try
adventures,
to drive the
this is
conversation to
particularly
something
helpful.
they know quite a bit
Yeah.
about. So
was
it's really
kind
difficult
of
to
strange
have
to
gatherings
keep
with this person.
angry with him or
because
irritated by
You
him
don't want
because he
to
was so good and so
avoid
gentle
them, you
and so
want to
helpful
include them, but when
and
you do
so
try
fair
to,
about my
include
feelings
them,
and my feelings and
then they're the ones
then,
that are taking over
that
all the
carried on and grew.
conversation, and you don't really get
he
to
came over to the
speak your
house and helped me
opinion
with all
very
kinds of
often,
little
or
things that I
others
needed
don't
help
get
with.
to express how
He
they
came to
feel
sit
either,
with her
because
to help
that
with her.
person is always
And
telling
began
everyone
to
how
like
they feel.
And then she passed and
Feel
we
like
didn't see each other for a while. He
whatever's
invited me
going
to
on in
some
that
parties at his
person's
house,
life,
which I went.
that's what we all have
And a little
as
bit of that irritation
So-
came back, but not much. And
It
then
makes for
today,
hard gatherings when
which is my
when we
birthday,
when
he
we're all
shows up
together.
with an invitation to
But
go
we
for
do try
lunch.
to get through it
He
and
brought me 2 bowls of bread and some
talk about
cannolis from the
things
best
that
cannoli
everyone
maker
can
in
be
the world.
involved with. It
And
does get
we had a
difficult.
delightful little party. And it cemented
And I
in
don't
my
know if that's
mind
3
that
minutes.
Jamie is indeed a very good person.
But,
Makes me
that's
feel a little
pretty much
guilty for
all I had to
ill
say
will
about
for
that
those
person.
years
That
too.
was difficult and
So that's my story.
Very good. Very good. Just take a moment to reflect on your speaking and your listening. And now we'll switch roles. Same task. Tell a little story. Speakers. Pause occasionally so you can gather your thoughts and so the listener can absorb what you're saying. Listeners, be aware of what's going on in your mind as you listen. If your mind is carried away to another story, bring it back to listening. Begin.
There's a person in my family every time it's common. There's trouble. This person seems
She probably passed away when I was, I don't know, maybe in my 20s or something, for a long, maybe between 15 and 20 or 15 when she passed away. Did not speak. And there was a big rift in the family because she
everything
was,
isn't always
I only have these memories from when I was like 6 to 12 or something of going over to her apartment, like visiting with
things that what is going on lives are going on.
That's what it was, like she didn't like how she
Hobbies,
children,
there's so many things to talk about. It always is
whatever,
just
or she didn't makes me sad. And then most people
laughing and there are times when
stories like
you just
grandmother.
get
And for me, it's kind of this
and you just want to tell
story.
her
Like she was like most of the
might
people.
go away.
Here were
There was
So,
one
there
instance
were only
where
a
she
few
started
cousins around.
wrestling with her like teenage son on the floor.
had some
just, like,
regular contact with her. So it's kind of sad, unfortunately.
behavior, but most of the time
Remember the
it's
family
in
tree.
some control. That's an extreme
And
situation, but
I
I
felt
would
bad for the
say
dad as well.
100% of the time that we're together.
His mom
The beer gets opened or whatever,
and he didn't, they never saw. I mean, he took us there
on
because
the
he wanted
gathering.
us to have some kind of really
And,
but we just stopped doing it because
I
it's so.
just prefer to,
uh,
I tend to be very quiet and just observe
And then they
and
would,
like
fight.
not really engaged.
And actually, I guess the story is about her,
You know, she's not the
but
only
also
one. So our group,
her husband. This is not someone I'm like, we're
family,
difficult,
it seems
but
like there's
I
what they
never
need to
met him.
like
My
get through it or
dad's
something,
side.
I don't know.
But
Yeah, it's sad, and you know, there've been times when my kids were little,
when they
when they were, I could see that they were like afraid of her.
he left.
because
Not even 100% sure what the true story is,
her
but
eyes looked all funny and she'd be like, give me a hug, I love you so much, give me
they
a hug,
didn't.
and they would always just kind of like back away from her, and
But also, you know, kind of unfortunate.
I never felt like
I
their
never got to
safety
meet him.
was
But he actually probably passed when I was only 5 or something.
were form.
Had any real relationship, but,
You know, that's something I want my kids to think. And then
comparing to
mostly
most
the
people, no, or
jokes
like, you
and
know, have a
stories
decent
that are told are very narrow-minded, sometimes
a bright
racist,
spot.
off color,
Normal
you
relationship.
know, putting other people down. Just,
Yeah.
it just
So-
sounds terrible when I talk about it. I think that this person is moving
Dark horse,
on
not
to
dark horse,
the truth.
the dark character, that's the
So I
most
usually end
people
up
agree that she
feeling
was just kind of like angry and mean.
emotionally
Maybe she
hustled
raised
from gatherings of my family, even if I had,
She raised 2
I
kids
don't drink,
alone.
even when I'm not taking anything in, I'd be feeling
Also
pretty.
stories of abuse.
It takes me a few days to kind of shake it off.
So yeah. But still sad and difficult, it was difficult for everyone to deal with.
Very good. So now,
A little heavier.
remain in your pairs for a few moments if you wanna talk over a little bit about this experience. And remember to listen, pause, give the other person time to speak. Don't dominate the conversation. If you want a few minutes to talk over the stories, you may.
Well, I was definitely guilty of thinking about my story while you were talking about it.
I think that maybe we all have somebody.
I was listening.
And our two people sound
Yeah,
similar.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I thought, yeah, I think we have someone like that in our family, maybe not.
I think maybe in my life that are.
It makes you focus
But
more.
I really enjoyed,
Yeah.
Usually there
and
is.
you just listening, like, I think that I used to be somebody who spoke more. And now I need to just to say, yeah. I don't know if it's like my family dynamic. Being the youngest of 5, I always felt like I needed to be right on it. Give
But it
my
don't,
piece in because I was
doesn't
the
come to
youngest,
conflict.
but now I'm
So,
like,
yeah,
really, I'm
it's
pretty
not
quiet.
like
I'm
that.
an extrovert in some sense. For me, listening to somebody else is a huge
Probably
job.
I'm sure she wanted to, you know, be closer
I
to
never
her
felt like I
grandkids.
wanted to interrupt you or, definitely was thinking, yeah, I can connect with that.
older brother,
I could connect with your
like moved away
story
from
too.
Wisconsin, went got married and moved to
Remember,
Tennessee.
I was her
There.
family who
So then she didn't get to meet those grandkids, and it was, you know.
trained from we got a lot of times skipped.
But again, it does go to.
You wouldn't wanna kill your buzz with food.
No.
You know, or a bad week, or a bad decade, or a bad life, or whatever. Yeah,
Drinking is
people,
just a commonplace in my family.
I'm sure you work, you talk to people who have panicked or angry or whatever, but you talk to a lot of people. But you just never know.
Part of
It's
our
interesting.
experience together,
It's
and that was important.
And
Perhaps
in a
into
lot of ways.
the
Maybe
next
get football
several
games,
months, which
like,
were very difficult.
or ideal watching
Yeah.
like football games just
It was benefited so much
that's
from
totally fine, yeah, wasted and.
it. That's one of the reasons I
Yes,
like
I
to
guess it's just
hear
part of our
exposure
culture.
for those that might.
Well,
It seems like drugs are the next
It's not
step.
gonna be more
you
like
can't necessarily pause for long periods and wait,
Because this was very, very.
think about what you're gonna say.
And it has
And
changed
the
my
little
life.
thing that
in ways
person
that
has
I
wrong.
wanna carry
There's a
that
pill.
out.
Numb it.
Yeah, numb it.
Particularly if they're
But it's
having
even, yeah, if you're not
difficulty,
practicing on drugs like that.
Sure.
they can complain about my shoulder. But I can also say, hey,
That I had
why
to
don't you
wait
be
for.
more
Okay, sounds good. What they're doing, what they're saying.
Yeah, so I can't tell you the name, but I
and
was.
the emotional.
We're all working on it.
We're also trying
Something
to-
that people take to prescribe it and they take it every day.
Very good. When you're ready, come back to your seat.
How can you function? Thank you. Thank you.
So we can take some time to talk about this as a group. I know some of you have particular skills in teaching about communication and have done this. Thoughts about mindful speaking and mindful listening, or the experience tonight. What did you find hard? What did you notice that was hard to do?
Not
Anything?
respond to him when he was telling his story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man,
wanna
not
respond.
to jump in and say, I know just what you mean by that.
Mhm,
Or just like,
right, yeah.
oh, you know, you didn't wanna touch.
Yeah,
I was intently listening, so like it was a good story, so I was listening to every word and didn't wanna jump in.
Keeping my voice quieter, that's hard for me to do.
Yeah, there were distractions by other stories or noises
Mhm.
for me.
Distractions, yeah.
I found I wanted to listen more
Uh-huh,
than I wanted to talk.
uh-huh.
And I guess it could be mood or something, but I just felt kind of like, gee, I wish I didn't have to say something. I just would have rather heard her.
Yeah, that's good to be aware of our moods, what we're feeling right now.
I was wondering if how I was picturing the events and the personalities in this story were realistic, or whether there was a lot of me and my own experience coming into play.
Sure, yeah, good.
It reminded me of nonviolent communication, some of this did, which
Yes.
was something I learned in another class, but was really helpful when I needed to address something very difficult with one of my sisters. And there was a whole step process to help me with something really big and hard that I knew I needed to talk to her about, and I was, really delaying it. And the more I delayed it, the harder it became, but then to have those steps of the intention setting and coming from a place of non-violence when you're listening and speaking, it's mindfully choosing your words and,
Yeah, that's a really good resource if you wanna study this more, to study about nonviolent communication. They have it laid out so succinctly, all these steps that
Yeah.
you go through.
Right, and I followed them because you're nervous, and you get all these emotions happening, and so to just follow the steps was really good. like a mathematical equation.
So as when you're talking about nonviolent communication, that's,
It's another class you can take, I'm sure there's a book that goes with it, it was delivered to me in a class
oh, got
format
it.
as part of the class, not just that class.
Oh, okay.
But it is, you can find it online, you can find the books on it. I can look up the book for you.
Yes. Nonviolent communication, that would work in the trainings.
Yeah. I try this and fail all the time. I have to keep forgiving myself. Come up in difficult situations and try to frame it well, and sometimes it doesn't work, and I just have to say, yeah, I tried, and keep trying. So, as I mentioned, we've worked on mindfulness, noting our thoughts, our emotions, our sensations. We've worked on being mindful of other people, both being mindful of their needs and expressing an intention to send out good to them, and tonight about communication. And Sharon's book has been, I think, a wonderful guide. I've got one more handout that I'm gonna ask you to put aside, but this has some other tips about mindful listening. It says, please reflect on this from the teacher Krishnamurti is how it starts. Okay. So put that aside. I think that kind of goes over some of the things we just talked about in a little different way. So this is the last class in this 6-week we're doing right now. And we can take some time now to talk about where to go from here. And one option is Jim would like to host a gathering next week to talk about, well, I'll let you say what you're gonna work with.
Okay. I think that the last two sessions, 7 and 8, were particularly valuable to me in my own experience. And I've got a story to tell about that, but basically, I think it's best told within the framework that Michael has created, using his template for how we move through this particular time together. I want to be with you and be present. I want to be honest about my own experience, but also kind. I don't want it to be maudlin or anything like that, yet, some of the parts of the experience were very difficult. But this class, which we both took, my wife and I both took, it was very, very helpful to us during very difficult times. And I think that if I present a bit of what it did for us and be gentle about it, be in the frame of mind that it's a potentially very helpful set of experiences that might be helpful in your lives, and also that it might be, that it certainly will be a hopeful message, and not one that is, that necessarily is easily dismissed. I think my intention is to have you think about it as we're together. Michael has suggested a number of books dealing with physical and emotional pain, and I've really avidly read them, but I'm not going to report on them. You won't hear a book report, but I have immersed myself in their messages. And in the 3 times that I've taken this class, some of the guidance that Meg provided during the very brief time we were together for yoga, and others that I've discussed meditation with, from the fellowship that I attend and a support group that I attend as well. So I do hope that you'll consider coming. I will try to make it worthwhile. I will try to keep my voice quieter. I will try to pause more. But it will be my first time doing this, and I'm hoping that that it will be successful in the sense that it will provide you with some helpful and hopeful ideas concerning this topic. And again, for me and for Celeste, this was the best part of the course. And my proposal to Michael was, hey, let's not lose this. Let's see what we can do with this. And I've got ideas.
Thanks, Jim. As Jim inferred, in the past, I've had weeks 7 and 8 that were specifically on being mindful with physical pain and emotional pain, which deserve special attention. So how many of you think you will be able to join Jim next week?
I don't know, I have to see what my work schedule is.
Enough to make it
Yes,
worthwhile?
For sure, yes.
Good, okay. Thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome.
I'd also like to talk about ongoing practice from here. What can we each do, or maybe what we can do together? So this is a little thing we can go over that talks about maintaining and enriching your practice. Some suggestions. So I got these from various sources. A lot of them came from the mindfulness-based stress reduction class in Madison. So number 1, set a daily time and place. So, and Sharon stresses this too in the book, doing this every day is almost essential. Now, of course, forgive yourself if you miss, but if you have a regular time of the day and place to do it, and a certain amount of time, let's say I'm gonna, before bed, I'm going to sit down in this one place and meditate for 15 minutes, say. Set a timer, and if you come to that regularly, will bring rewards. May not feel like it, but it will. So that's essential. Number 2, choose a practice. So we've learned a lot of different ways of being mindful. And pick what works for you. And maybe pick what works on that day. So if you can't sit, decide, oh, I'm going to do walking instead. Or maybe combine several of them. Number 3 is about setting a time. And I think it's a very good goal to strive to sit or meditate for 20 minutes uninterrupted. At least if you can do this occasionally, it's really helpful. If you can do more, even better. But I think that's a really good goal. And Sharon says 20 minutes, so whatever you can do. At the end, she says if you only do it for 30 seconds some days, that's okay too. Number 4, read. So it is helpful for many of us to read resources about meditation that kind of motivates us and gives us a little direction. So I've given you a list of some resources, and there's a lot more. So that can be helpful. Number 5, keep a journal. It can be helpful to write down what's happening in your practice. You can do it every day or once in a while. Maybe write down insights that you have or thoughts, or so I think it's handy. Some people like this especially. Sometimes I find that I don't know what I'm going to write about. I don't have any thoughts, but I just start writing and suddenly stuff comes out. So that can be helpful. Similarly, I don't know if I have this in there, but talking with a trusted friend about your meditation practice and what you're going through is really helpful too. And in the same way, you sit and you don't even have any intention of what you're gonna say, and sit there for a minute and pause, and something comes up, and all of a sudden some thoughts will come up that you didn't even realize you had. So journaling and talking with a friend are enriching to our mindfulness practice. Number 6, attend a regular group meditation. So most of us notice that if we meet like this, that it gives us a little more motivation to keep going. So this, you've got next week, and then what? In the past, I've sometimes talked about trying to have a regular meeting, but I'm busy, we're all busy. There is a group that meets regularly that I sometimes go to. It's on Thursdays at 6 p.m. in Sheboygan at First Congregational Church. So pretty much every week, this group meets 1 hour for meditation. Different people lead it. It's very informal. So that's an opportunity I can mention. But number 7, attend a class or retreat. So you've done a class, and I've talked about retreats. And if you want some information about some retreats, I can find some information for you. These would be, sometimes they're online, sometimes they're in person. There's a little bit of expense if you're going to attend in person. They can be from a day, a lot of times it's a weekend, or you can, do 7 days or longer, which is really worthwhile when you get a chance for this. But last spring, we attempted a little mini retreat where it was just for 4 hours. We met, there were about 20 of us, I think, and it was silent for the most part. We did some sitting, some walking meditation, some yoga. We had a talk, and then at the end we had some discussion. We had lunch, which was silent. So 4 hours of silence, basically, and practicing together, which was helpful, wasn't it, Meg?
I love silent retreats. I love when you no phones. I've had it where you couldn't even look at people. They would say, don't even look at me, like no communication. It's really profound when you come out of it.
Yeah. And people were surprised. Some people just said, I'll try it. And they said, yeah, that was worthwhile. And yeah, that's one thing. Sometimes they'll say, don't even look at anyone else. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, you can look, but it's very mellow. Some people choose to keep to themselves, so that's part of it. So maybe see what my schedule brings. Maybe in April, maybe I'll get out an email to see if there's a response. If people have time on a Saturday, we did it from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on a Saturday. So watch for that, okay? And it'll be open to anybody who's taken this course or anybody who knows something about meditation. Probably good to have some background. Number 8, this is about bringing mindfulness to daily activities. When you're brushing your teeth, just brush your teeth. So this is one of my practices. Noticing, putting the toothpaste on, doing the brushing, and noticing, oh, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next. Come back to just brushing. Oh, I'm remembering what it was like yesterday. Come back to just brushing. So, if you can pick a few activities like that, that's really helpful. It brings it into daily life. And in the same way, mindful eating. So if you have an opportunity, say to yourself, I'm going to be silent and really slow down, pay attention to this food, this meal. And if you're with other people, you might want to tell them, I'm going to be mindful right now. Do you want to join me? Number 10, when waiting, do a brief meditation. And Sharon talks about this. You know, there are certain times in our lives, inevitably, when we're waiting. So we don't have many long lines around here, like in the city, at the post office or in the grocery store, but we do. So when you're waiting and you think, I'm gonna get going, and you can think, oh, this is an opportunity to meditate right here. Be mindful of what's going on around me, notice my breath, notice these things. So, or just stopping at a stoplight. You know, you've got 15, 20 seconds. Notice your breath. Notice what it feels like. Pay attention to driving.
Don't close your eyes.
Don't close your eyes.
Anytime you take your phone out and scroll because you've got a few minutes,
Uh-huh.
try not to. That's what I tell myself.
There you go. That's
There you
right. Notice how we gotta be constantly stimulated.
Mhm.
Let's see, 11. Take a moment to just listen, just feel body sensations, just see. So, that's what I talked about that I think in the walking meditation, where every once in a while, if I'm walking outside, I'll decide to just stop and take note of what I'm thinking about, what I'm feeling, like coolness or warmth, and just notice what's going on around me. Just stop. Number 12, pause when in stressful situations. Number 13, I have a handout about the pause I didn't bring out, but that's a good one, but it's just basic. Number 13, notice when you're judging yourself or others, or judging your experience, judging your sensations. So we're not saying judging is wrong, but be aware of it. 14, become more aware of your consumption habits. Eating, drinking, buying, watching TV. So as we become mindful, we notice these habits, things that we've just got used to doing. And if we pay attention, we can notice, is this valuable the way I'm doing it? So it's good to assess our lifestyle once in a while mindfully and just notice if there's some changes that are worth doing. I think we all have addictions, some more than others. And these list some of the addictions that are common. And be mindful of it. I hope that's helpful. And why don't let's go around and we can talk about what do you think you can do? What's your intention? Do you want to continue to work at this? And how do you see yourself being able to develop your mindfulness?
I think I wanna continue, because I think it has been useful and helpful to me. And the joy in that is that I don't see an endpoint. I see this as a path that will lead to greater self-awareness and a better life and a better interaction with other people. And so I want to continue. I'd like to improve my own practice, and I've experimented with a variety of things, and I think sitting and breathing, for about half of it, and then loving kindness for the other half is what I mostly come back to, and that's, I think, mostly helpful to me. But I keep trying with the walking and some of the others. I think the experimenting keeps it fresh for me, and I think that I'm gonna continue to do that.
Yeah, I like that, to think of it as an experiment. I'm gonna try this and see what happens. Yeah, I like that.
It's like you're branching out, I have to agree with what Jim was saying about, I'm finding my meditation goes like, holy cow, it's done already? Because I do the self-scan, and then I go to the kindness, thinking of thoughts for others. So it's like a combination there, then it's like, oh, I'm not done,
The timer went off, huh?
Yeah, but I do like how it's not the alarm ones, how we set a timer, and that soft timing has worked much, much better. I think the journaling is what's gonna help me be more accountable, so I kind of get in a routine to pursue, more. I know I did that with yoga. I always wrote down when I was doing yoga. It's like, okay, why do I have this many years of yoga notes? Like, it's ridiculous. Stop that. I still go to yoga, but I don't record it anymore. So I found that beneficial to be recording. And I hope when I see people like this, it's like, oh, I should be. I gotta include it in more. Somebody once said, you see the police car and you put your brakes on. We should do the opposite. I wanna buy, was it a ladybug or a punch buggy? No, a Volkswagen. I wanna buy a Volkswagen. So this is a story from long ago. Whenever you see that Volkswagen, it's like, oh, there it is. It's like, and so I would take that to different yoga instructors that I would pass, and it's like, oh, there it is, and you see these wonderful things, and it's like,
Yeah.
So I would think you guys would be my meditation triggers, that I'm going down deeper. I don't know.
I like that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
How about you, Kate? What do you see yourself doing?
Oh, absolutely, trying to keep up with meditation. I feel like the most valuable part was the loving kindness. I see people and I think into my head, I wish you loving kindness, I wish you to be safe, I wish you to be happy, I wish you peace, and it makes me feel really good. And yeah, even if I don't know them very well, they get happy wishes. And then the breathing, I think, has helped me quite a bit in the evening when you're trying to just relax and get ready for bed. You just are more mindful of taking that breath and how it feels in your body. Yeah. Definitely a valuable skill.
I agree with all of you, and this is a lifelong practice for me. I'm in it to win it. I'm never giving up. I have had so much success with my pain, for me too, the last two classes dealing with physical pain and emotional pain. I would say that my mindset surrounding the physical pain has shifted so much that I often don't even notice it. So whether it's going away or not, I don't know. And then, emotional stuff as well. I just noticed that I am less reactive to strong emotions. But I think that a goal for me is, in my day-to-day life with the people who love me unconditionally, including my teens, where I tend to get very unmindful at times. I just catch myself when I'm feeling that strong urge to say or redirect or whatever it might be, and just to sit back and observe a little longer until I'm calm and cool and collected.
I'll be working on the skill. I think I wanna just have a more regular practice because it feels good when I do it. And I'm easily distracted, just in general, but from practicing and from working on this. So my goal is to increase the number of successful meditations in a week.
Just say yes to me every time.
Everything.
You wanna meditate?
Everything else.
Of course.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yes.
I'll try.
Good.
I was hesitant in the beginning, and I really enjoy it because I feel like I had a personality that was overwhelming for most people, because that's my job, is like it overstimulates me, and I have a lot of judgment with what I listen to. So, and then I take that out into the world too. So I think my coworkers are much appreciative. I think they've noticed, they don't know what I'm doing, but I do a combination of things. So I start my day, boss taught me to start my day with gratitude. And she is a very inspiring lady, and so I do that. I start with gratitude, and I write thank yous to people that have done something for me or that need, prayers or kind words or whatever it is. It's easier for me to communicate through what I write to them rather than to tell them. So I can't just walk up to somebody and just say nice things. I have to write it. So I do that, and then I journal all my judgmental and anger on in my journal, so I don't say it out loud.
That's interesting that it's easier.
It is easier for
See,
me.
but as a teacher, I think of her learning styles. Some are more auditory, some are more.
And I'm a kinesthetic learner, is what I was told once upon a time when I was younger.
Put it in motion, it's
Yeah,
kinesthetic.
so I put that on paper.
Very good.
And it's easier to write it handwritten or on a computer.
Nope, I write
See, and I
cards.
think it's a
I've
whole
designed my
different
own
part of your
cards
brain
to
when
write.
you're writing hand versus.
And it helps me in my journal too. That is, all my anger is in my journals.
You wonder if someday that'll change. It'll do the opposite.
It does, because with my sister, right?
Sure.
That's when that started.
Oh, I can
All that
imagine.
anger was in those books.
Yeah.
And I still have those books. And when I go back and look at those books, it scares me to reread that. But now I'm ready to burn them.
See?
Because
You
I'm
need a
at that
celebration
point
there,
where
yeah.
I am calm, I understand, and I meditate. Like when I feel that, I recognize it, I'm mindful of what's happening when something's growing inside me. I sit now and I say it will pass, and I give it 15 or 20 minutes, and then I let it go, and then tomorrow's a new day.
Wow. See,
So that's
powerful.
much better than I used to be.
Yeah.
Very good, everyone. Keep it up. For me, I'm going to keep up my daily practice, and I really benefit from teaching. So I keep researching things, and it benefits me by trying to bring things to other people. So I'm working on a class for next fall that I think it's going to be called Mindful Aging. The sort of the premise I started with is that many of us have a goal to, as we get older, to be good examples to our children, our family, our friends, of what is a good life, okay? Well, how do we do that? Because it is partly about our experience as we get older, but if we set an intention to do this, that's helpful. So I'm exploring some things about, so Pema Chodron talks about this. She says, so if you want to do this, number one, if you set a daily meditation practice, that's the start. Number two, read and contemplate teachings, learn from others. And number three, put these into practice in your daily life. Very simple. But some of the things I'm finding, just exploring about what it's like to get older and what people have found helpful. So I want to explore, one thing I'm looking at right now is a lot of this has to do with the neuroscience of how they're proving this all helps. So the book I'm reading now is called Your Brain on Art, and how the arts expand our awareness. I've noticed this particularly myself in singing in a choir. I'm with other people, I'm challenged to sing the notes, and being in a choir with 4-part harmony, it just it lifts me. So that's, but you can either do art or look at art, dance, so many different, so that's one of the classes will be about that. There'll be one about grief and dying and practicing dying, thinking about our own death, and gratitude. I think is important. And Kim has a little gratitude thing for us tonight.
I do.
If you'd like to share that.
I do. So I only know you for 6 weeks, and so I got candy because I know you like chocolate. And is it Zach? Please tell me because I was, okay. So you have, you get to pick a piece of candy, so we have peanut butter. This is raspberry, peanut butter, mint, and regular. Tell me which one you want.
Regular.
Regular and Zach. I wrote something about you. Meg,
I would like mints.
mint. And I wrote something about you. These hearts are from my daughter's wedding.
Thank you so much.
Kate.
I'll have mint also.
It said Katie, but I changed it to Kate. Gail.
I'll go peanut butter. Usually take mint, but I mixed it up.
Jim.
Raspberry.
Raspberry. I had to have one raspberry. And Dr. Hetzner.
Thank you. Would you have another raspberry?
I sure would.
Okay. Thank you.
There you are.
Awesome. Which one are you gonna pick?
What's that?
Which one are you gonna pick?
I would pick the peanut butter.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Five ways of saying I love you, isn't there a book?
Your love language?
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I think of that with this, almost saying
She's a
One.
gift giver.
Yeah,
but
I
her
am, my
words
husband
though,
always
her-
tells me that.
but her,
Writing the notes.
the words is, you know,
Mhm.
which one would that be, you know, it's, yeah.
we'll close with the meditation and you can hang around to talk if you'd like.
Is there an age requirement for this class on aging? Or silver hair, or?
You'll be older by that next fall.
Good question. I would say it's not for teenagers. There's one of the books I read in preparing is by Richard Rohr called Falling Upward, and he talks about the two halves of life. And in the first half, it's about establishing who we are. And so it has to do with many times finding a mate, with finding an occupation, establishing our place in the world, and this is important for all of us. The second half of life gives us an opportunity to step back and evaluate what's going on and go deeper. So if you're entering the second half of life, now this could happen at 30 or 70, depending, so there's no age requirement other than you're gaining some maturity, I think.
Maybe it should be for some teens then. It's
Yeah,
helpful, it would be for me as a teenager, that's not a dig, that's just one of those things
I know what
that
you mean, that's okay.
we all develop our maturity into.
Okay. Sitting and breathing. Feeling our body. Letting the thoughts float by and letting them go. Thanks for your practice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And have a great vacation.
Yes, I'm going on the road tonight.
Oh, you do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we want to get through Chicago tonight.
Oh, wow.
Well, we'll all get out of here real fast.
Yeah.
Have fun, safe travels.
Thank you.
Yes, have fun. Jim, is the class next week the same time, same place?
Yeah, same time, same place, same format.
Yeah, I don't know my work schedule, but I'll look at my
Okay,
calendar.
great, love that.
You can bring a friend or a
That's
person with.
what I'm
Certainly.
thinking.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Say,
I'm not gonna start by teaching people how to meditate, but, you know, it's fine. I can, you know, be happy with whatever audience I have.
okay. The husband talk.
Yeah.